And we are recording back again as Dr. James Thorp and Dr. Eric Feintuch, who is welcoming into my dictatorship. He made the mistake of thinking he had a say in how things go here, and I had to put him back down. And if you don't behave, I will have my Gestapo come to you. But Dr. Thorp has been on here before, so Dr. Feintuch, please introduce yourself, my man.
So anyway, appreciate that warm welcome to bring in the Third Reich. No problem. Bottom line is I've been doing this since the beginning of the pandemic. One day I came and was doing interviews with, we'll go straight to video, but we're not designed to be like podcasts. We were doing legal, what we call like legal documents. We were actually creating like a sworn testimony. So we would have people, instead of watching all the podcasts out there, we created like the first kind of right to courtroom testimony. So we had people sworn in with a paralegal in New York State every single time I interviewed people. So we could literally transcribe it and go right to court, since things were so urgently needed, I felt. So I had all the great people that you've had, although not everyone. I've been very impressed with some of the people. We've actually interviewed people like Malone and McCullough and all the greats out there. You could just list all the M's and the other letters out there. So we got them all. And when someone didn't show up, I would tell them that someone else was on, and that usually got them on too. Like I got Gert van der Bosch when Dell really wanted him, and he thought I was going to steal him or something, like as if I have that much power. But he was waiting for the big show, and I literally got him to come and communicate to us at the rabbinical court. So I was a moderator for the rabbinical court. And it seems like, what is that? And that is basically three different communities that are Jewish that will actually, with three different rabbis, and they would literally sit and listen to evidence. And they have to, when they, at the end of the evidence, they will make a decision whether they would kind of agree or disagree with the depositions and the information that was provided. And there was the only decision in North America that I was honored to be the moderator for. And that decision was that no children should be taking the vaccine. No pregnant women should be taking the vaccine. If you're forced to take the vaccine, you're to take your child out of school and homeschool them. It was pretty dramatic. It was very important. It was done. I had the honor of doing 8 hours of testimony that day. So your measly little 56 minutes you're giving us today, I'm happy to be honored to do it. But that was a big test of my fortitude, which was, I didn't even know that the only way you could critique or criticize a rabbi that makes a decision on these on this information has to go through all 8 hours. What? So if anyone comes up to a rabbi and goes, I don't believe in anything you did you listen to those 8 hours? If you didn't, you have nothing to say to me. When you do, we'll have a conversation. I didn't know that. At 5 hours, I was ready to quit. I was tired, Tommy. It was exhausting. Having people like Gert and Malone and McCullough, all these people came in from all over. We had Jancy, Lindsay. We had all these different experts. And then we had people another week later, 2 weeks later, with another 8 hours. So literally we have 16 hours of testimony, including Zelenko, rest his soul, and Senator Johnson came on. So we have 16 hours of really commentary at that moment in history about where we were. And the good part is that we found out that most of the time these guys were right. The story hasn't changed even over a year later, that they were right on. All the data is suggesting they were correct. And it's the only decision in North America that says children can't get it. And if you do, take your kid out of school, and pregnant women shouldn't be getting it. And adults should really consider whether they're at high risk. It was a really early decision that was necessary. And I was honored to be asked to do that. So I got involved early on. And one day I turned on the channel, and then I saw you actually, Tommy, with all the same guys that I had on. And I was like, who's this young, good looking kid going on and making me look like so old? I was like, that's not good. But it's like, what's going on here? But I was really happy that other people were actually picking up the ball and running with it. And I'm making a joke about it, but I was really grateful that we're not the only ones doing this. And, for the cost of a good mic and a camera, I was changing the world a little bit. And I had some of our broadcasts, including some that had Dr. Thorp on it, had as many as 300,000 views literally within 1 week. And then I started getting involved. You see the picture behind me is the Canadian flag and the American flag, is that we've been making a joint effort to educate the Canadians and the Americans together. So I have a whole series called Then They Came for the Canadians. So I started educating them because their licenses were pulled, their doctorate degrees. And I wanted them to know that we had their backs. They've always been there for us, and that we weren't going to just forget them because we're a big country and we don't care about Canada. And because of that, I have over 1,000 of these retired and active duty. So there's your Delta Force. I'll see your Delta and I'll take my 1,000 willing to come, to really fight the battle. And I brought on Brian Peckford, who actually helped create the charter rights for the Canadians. And great guy to interview. I really recommend you do it, Tommy, if you haven't. And he actually was one of the last signatures of that document. So he came on, then when he heard about it, then McCullough came on, and we did all these another 25 hours of stuff just on what the legal stuff in Canada was, what the stuff was in the US, how we could share information. And that's how we got started. So I got recently lucky enough to bring Dr. Thorp to Washington with me, although I think he may have got there invited before me, right? Right, Jim? I think you got there before me. But I was able to get him involved and make sure that his information was out there with one of his whistleblowers. So there's pretty much almost everything that I've ever envisioned doing, I was able to get out there and speak the truth. I mean, if we were in any other country in the world, we probably wouldn't even get a chance to be out doing what we're doing. So it's our moral, our spiritual obligation to speak the truth as Americans, and we can never let that light ever leave this earth. So that we have no other options as far as I'm concerned. And I'm happy that you were in the fight with all my buddies. Well, I didn't get Desmond. I have to say, I'm a little jealous. So I can put
you in touch with them.
One day.
I can put you in touch with them.
All right, we're good. We're good. I love that guy. Brilliant.
I was in a hotel room with gastroenteritis last Christmas, not this one, the one before, last Christmas break, and listening. Dr. Malone had just gone on Joe Rogan, and I was listening to him, and I was re-listening to Dr. McCullough's episode, and they both kept quoting a Dr. Desmond. I had no idea who Desmond was. I wasn't sure if he was like a Freud or like someone who's just been dead for a century. And so I like Googled him, and I was like, oh shit, this guy's like 40. And I was just like, where is he? And the University of Belgium or something. And so I just Googled his name and his email address, and it popped up right there. And I was like, fuck it. And I just sent him an email. And he was like, do you want to do this? And he was like, sure.
I love that combination. I love that. I love all three of them were out there with after that Google, like playing with the outfield scoring card. I've never seen like anything like what Malone did was break the internet. And that was really what we got to see in real time, that there's really just people back there. This is not real data crunching. We're going to change the numbers. We don't like how they're going. And Google should never be trusted with anything anymore. Ever. It should never be trusted. Yep.
Yeah, when that result came up, because that was the first time I'd ever seen that. People were screenshotting and posting it. If you typed in mass formation psychosis, it said, results are changing rapidly. We haven't found authoritative. And you saw behind the curtain. You're like, oh, there's like the old man pulling the strings. And you're like, oh, shit.
That's the Wizard of Oz right there, buddy. That's
why I did the episode. I didn't give a shit about mass formation psychosis. I was just like, what is this? And I had already been banned from YouTube. So at that point, I was just like, well, you know what? I'm going to do an episode. And they all said yes. And I wasn't really expecting it.
Exactly.
And it was the biggest episode I ever did. I can definitely put you in touch with them. But it is fascinating that you'll see that more and more now. I mean, I think right after Damar Hamlin went down, that happened again. People were just typing in Damar Hamlin, and it was like, these results are changing rapidly. And to me, that's kind of the red flag now. That means that the narrative hasn't been solidified. The talking points haven't been sent out yet. And to me, that's just kind of, if you're taking the flak, you're over the target. Keep pushing on that point.
Amen, Tommy. You're right on there. And I think, like Jim and I have been saying, like all along, like what's the next thing that's coming out of this? We were all sitting there with Senator Johnson, and I had Jim to my left, and I said, hey, you know why we're all in pain in this room? We're all testifying and trying to come up with what we were going to say to the U.S. public. And I said, I think the pain we're feeling, and I looked at Jim. Jim, I hope you don't mind me saying it this way, but are we giving birth to something right here? What's going on? We're giving birth to something new. We're
Huh.
giving birth to a new medical profession. And I don't know if you go to medical school or something like that. It seemed like one day I might have clipped where it said, I'm going to some kind of class I was taking or whatever you
I
were.
I actually go dogs. I was in the University of Georgia. I graduated in 2013. I got into medical school. I took the MCAT, went to the interviews, got in, and then I realized I didn't want to do it anymore. So I spent 4 years trying to get in. I managed to get in, and then I guess I got the acceptance letter and was like, yeah, it's good enough. Fuck it.
Oh, so you're too young to realize that's a Woody Allen joke. No one wants to be a member of a club that would have you as its member.
Pretty much. I mean, I remember said that to my little brother once. I did something stupid. I was like, don't forget, I got into medical school. And he goes, you getting into medical school doesn't make me think more of you. It makes me think less of all of the doctors. I was like, well,
And Tommy, you can't say. I have to say, this is your little brother.
a little brother. Yeah, no, I mean, I need
I'm
to.
loving it. I'm loving that kid. Maybe we should just like let him come on and let you hand him the mic.
No, I'm gonna break his neck. It's the retribution's coming. It's been a couple
I
years.
love that. I love
Retribution's
that.
coming. I
That
will
is
kill.
smart as that's smart as a whip. I have to say. I think I have a new. He's another fan out here in New
I
York.
will kill him with my bare hands. He knows that. But could you maybe touch on that again, the giving birth idea of like a new system?
Yeah, so I mean, Jim is one of many great doctors who realize that the system's broken, that is serving both the boards and the licensing of medicine. That Big Pharma has actually lost its way by basically contracting medical doctors to do a form of medicine that's kind of robotic. They don't need human beings to do them. A lot of the stuff they're doing, they're basically doing formulas of everything. So what happens is that we realize that there's a form of Hippocratic oath that's key that has to never leave the earth, just like the truth has to, and the light that we give to each other. So we both realized that we had to do something. So we're all speaking out. We're looking at the data. We're sharing what the research is. And obviously the people at the FDA, I testified on June 28th to the FDA. I had 3 minutes of uncensored minutes with them. I told them that the same degrees, the same colleges they went to, are the same articles, are produced by the same level of consciousness, of intelligence by the peer-reviewed articles that they're choosing not to read. And because they're not reading it, we're not seeing the latest, greatest stuff for the United States nor the world. And I didn't say they were compromised. There were a lot of things I probably wanted to say, but I contained myself and I kept it all along the lines that they were really not doing the job that God put them there to do, and that their day will come too. And I looked and I studied every one of them all day before I presented, and I purposely went after Paul Offit to see what he was going to say before I got on. And I laughed when I came on for a moment and said, all right, let's go, guys. And I literally told them that, how dare you come up with new math on basically letting children get a shot without animal testing, even with that on mice. And how can you sit there and say it's okay to create a variant strain vaccine or quote unquote gene therapy, and actually without any kind of testing whatsoever? What kind of correlative, it's called correlative, or I think Jim knows the word for it, correlative data can you actually use to make an assumption that just increasing antibodies is enough of protection? So that correlative data doesn't even pass the sniff test. And I wanted to get that clear. I was trained to look at the data through many scientists. That's the greatest part, Tommy, for me, has been really kind of talking to these scientists and kind of being a great translator to them. So I spent a lot of time with Stephanie Senoff, who was basically teaching me about prion disease, about what Luc Montagnier had studied before he passed, the Nobel Prize winner for HIV. And I realized we were missing most of this stuff was outside. So I put a picture of Luc Montagnier to the FDA. And I said, why are we not listening to what he said, even though he's passed? All those people that were presented died of like a mad cow disease. How can you not listen to what some of the greatest scientists are saying? And I said, some of you are going to come home tomorrow and you're going to have a tough day at work, because you're going to decide that you're going to be like that person who at the last moment decided that drug that was used and it was approved by Canadian drug analyst, FDA of Canada, by Germany and the UK. You remember that drug called thalidomide that
Mm-hmm.
was safe and effective?
Flipper
Well,
babies.
someone who was a Canadian born resident who moved to the US was the last person on the bridge that said, wait a minute, I see a safety signal. Not any of you see safety signals here, guys. None of you. Someone's got to. We got 2 votes out of 21, and he's one of my star witnesses, even though he's going to be reluctant to be there. I have all his words. I've been taping him ever since on every opportunity, and I'm going to play himself back to him if he disagrees with something he himself said. I can't wait to bring him to court. So in the last 3 months, I formed a do a little bit of a kind of what I'm about, a kind of a rap. When I used to be a lifeguard on the ocean many, many years ago, there was a thing called a riptide, Tommy. I don't know where you are in Georgia, so there may not be any riptides. Are you out of Georgia? Where are
No,
you?
I've left Georgia a while ago. I'm in Maine now, but no, I'm aware of a riptide.
So what's a riptide, Tommy?
Well, I know I just remember it's dangerous. It's kind of all I remember. Right? It's a tide out. It's tied like below the surface that you can't necessarily see from the surface, but it will pull you to your death.
Exactly. Well, it's 2 bodies of water coming together at the same time, and it literally, you can't see it, and it just sucks you right out. So as a lifeguard on the beach, if somebody got sucked in by a riptide, we go through the same line we run in the same line. We jump right into the riptide because we get out there in half the time, and we grab them. We do a rope thing or whatever we're gonna do. We pull them out of the rip. So Operation Warp Speed was so effective at manipulating the public, and I'm part of getting that data out, that the DoD has been actually processing it. You've been seeing it in the papers recently, in the Army press the last couple of days. But I've been actually, because I went to Washington with Jim, and I'll let Jim talk in a few moments. Sorry, Jim. Is that we together listened to a lot of experts, and we realized the DoD is definitely part of this control chain, and maybe they're not doing their job. Maybe we have thousands of documents that prove that they're not doing their job to regulate the manufacturing of this. And Senator Johnson's all over this, and we expect him to make a statement in the next couple of days. So I've been blessed to be in that circle. So we created a thing called Warp Speed Legal. So just like Operation Warp Speed, we actually have lawyers that we've been consulting with to bring lawsuits faster against these kind of perpetration of our human rights, our U.S. rights, our rights under our Constitution that have been manipulated by government. And I now am the president of what's called Warp Speed Legal. So I literally decided to go right after them, right at the heart, right in the riptide, and I'm coming right at them. And Jim knows that when I say I'm going to do something, I pretty much do it. So I've surrounded myself with some really smart lawyers. Remember that line from Rodney Dangerfield? If you want to look skinny, hang out with fat people. So if you want to be smart around lawyers, get really smart lawyers around you and know the Constitution, know the law. And I'm just honored to be in the presence of great people. And we're helping assign local counsel for people that need to bring lawsuits in every state of the union. And if they go to Warp Speed Legal, they can actually click on a button, put their information in. We'll see if there's the right person for them. We're creating a community of learning so we can even train the lawyers to get up to speed in the science.
Or you can do what I do, and you just interview really smart people and just nod. People are like, "Yeah, you're really, really well rounded." I'm like, I don't say a word. I just bring on smart people. I just let them talk.
I think you've done a pretty good
I
job,
just
Tommy.
smile and nod, put the American flag, and I'm like, good, good, good. I don't
Hey, I
know.
got my flags back here, my
Yeah,
Canadian American flags. It means a lot to me.
I had Dr. Senef on. I think she was one of the first episodes I did in this new apartment. Yeah, she talked about glyphosate for an hour. I couldn't keep up with her. Her brain was like 1,000 horsepower, but I just nodded. She's
Isn't she a
brilliant.
whip?
She's
She is
brilliant.
unbelievable. My wife used to read her and knew all about her way before COVID came around.
Yeah.
And when I told her, do you know that woman Stephanie? And she said, why? I said, well, I'm going to be talking to her later. You're talking to Stephanie? I said, well, she's helping me prepare for the FDA. She was teaching me about the material that I'm accurate. And she says, I cannot believe it. So she went from talking to me the first year where I kind of just did not put the energy into this, thinking that the world kind of shut down for me and I needed to rest. And then I came out in the second year ready to fight and take on the world that was fighting against our human rights and our personal, integrity. And I haven't stopped since.
She's brilliant. She has the mental horsepower of like a Shelby Cobra. I'm sitting
Oh,
here with like a weed whacker of a brain, and I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. And she's just, any questions? And I'm like, I don't know what you said. Thank you so much for coming on. But Dr. Thorpe, we haven't let you say a word.
That's a good thing.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Thorpe.
Especially when Dr. Feintuch ordered my commanding officer ordered me to take my hat off.
I think it's a great hat. I think you should put it back on.
Can't go against my commanding officer.
Well, you guys are in my dictatorship. But Dr. Thorpe, do you have any thoughts on all of this, or are you just watching us go at each other?
I do. I have a couple of really strong things to say right now, and that is, I am looking at two gentlemen that I respect and I love very much, and you have all of my respect in the world, Tommy.
Thank you.
And Dr. Eric. I love Dr. Eric. I don't even remember how. Well, I do remember how he got me into the my Jewish rabbinical court. And while I'm not Jewish, and I didn't even know that Eric was Jewish, but he got me to the people that I needed to be with, which is the rabbis, because those are the only people in the world that were focused on my patients. All of my pastors have abandoned me. They won't speak to me anymore because they took the payment from the Department of Health and Human Services through the COVID-19 Coalition Corps in terms of $13+ billion distributed to over 274 sectors, every sector of our society, including the boards, including the churches. And I no longer have respect for any of, I'm a follower of Jesus. Jesus was a Jew, okay? My Jewish brothers and sisters are my family. And my rabbis that Eric got me in touch with, they knew what was going on, and I won't go into it, but they are intimately associated with the culture of my patients, especially with regard to the reproductive patterns. And I know we got probably children listening, and I really don't want to go into that, except to say that thank God for this rabbinical court, because they served my patients, they listened to my patients, they broadcast the dangers of this in my patients when nobody else in the world other than me and my rabbis, screw the pastors. I have zero respect for my Christian pastors anymore. Sorry, it's just the way it is. They won't talk to me anymore. They hate me. They can't stand me. But because they took the bait, and I believe that it was a bribe. That is our taxpayer money that we paid them to force the good, loving people of this country, forced them with a false narrative to take a deadly vaccine. And I will never, I will never forgive them for that. Never. And I will never forget. It's going to be I will be loving to the 97% of physicians that are pushing the vaccines, and I will be loving to my pastors, but I've lost my respect for them.
Dr. Feintuch.
Well, first of all, Jim, I don't want to make it like a love fest, but I love Jim too. So, we get it. I mean, I think the key was I only got a chance to do what I was doing because women don't really address the rabbinical court in a traditional way, even though it was Rebbetzin, a rabbi woman who literally brought everyone together. But they usually have a hard time because they don't want to be influenced by someone of the opposite sex. So they really want men to speak to them. So I got a chance to do something. And I say after 5 hours, I was so spent. But I said, all right, stay with it. A little message in my head. Stay with it. Stay with it. Not knowing again that 8-hour rule was so critical and no one could criticize them ever unless they go through all the testimony. Really incredible. At the end, they actually told every religious group that listened to this that this is not an exercise in Judaism. It's an exercise of experts sitting in front of a religious group and telling them what they understood, what this was about, and what they needed to consider for their people so they could use the same evidence that we have and then discuss it amongst themselves, whether they want to keep their kids home from school, whether they think it's okay for pregnant women. It's not just a religious Jewish effort, it's a human effort. And I've literally, my next evolution of doing the Heavenly Court, that stuff is online. It's called the Heavenly Court. They can watch all those 16 hours of testimony, but we're also breaking it down for other religions now so that they can use that testimony in their communities. So that's another honorable thing. I wanted to make sure that everyone had that information. Even though a year has gone by, that evidence is still as relevant as it was, now as it was then. And it's even getting more interesting because they said we're releasing more stuff right now. And I said the reason why Jim and I sitting next to me, I had the honor of sitting next to me with Senator Johnson, was that we realized we're birthing a new profession of medicine that believes in the Hippocratic Oath, that will not get free lunch from Big Pharma. So there's just two principles: do no harm and no free lunch. That's where it starts at. And everyone that's grandfathered in is going to basically have the same rights as any medical doctor in the U.S. that doesn't take its marching orders from Big Pharma. That is not going to happen to this new Hippocratic movement. And I'm part of that. I put together the nonprofit so that I don't want to have ownership. It's for the medical profession. It's for my health profession. I'm a doctor of chiropractic. It's for other ones to join so that they can literally get the same equivalent parallel universe as medicine. And if people want to follow the Big Pharma thing because it's some new hot drug that they want to try, they can go that route. Or they can go with like repurposed drugs that would have saved hundreds of thousands of lives if someone didn't have a financial interest. And you're going to see a lot of lawsuits about that coming up. But I don't want to make it into drag out this conversation just about lawsuits. More importantly, I want to leverage what we know to be the truth against these very, what I consider to be financial interests above all, above life, above the importance. And why do I say that? There are pharmaceutical companies that actually, even in like Spain, a big story, almost 1,800 or 3,000 workers were not forced to take the vaccine, but they got fake cards for the whole bunch of employees. What pharmaceutical company would pay for fake vaccine cards if they thought this was safe and effective? I think safe and effective will go down in history as the biggest fraud in the history of the world. That's what I think.
Yeah.
And I would say amen to that, Tommy and Eric. And I just I want to make the point here of Eric's and your, Tommy's, courage to say what you're saying. Courage is contagious. Courage is contagious. Just a few examples of courage. Eric really held my hand through this, but my whistleblower, and I can say her name, it's Michelle Gershman. I won't say which community in California she's from, but this young nurse who is a sole monetary provider of her family, including her husband and children, came out. And when she saw this horrible email that came directly from her administration saying they're having massive number of stillbirths that started after the vaccine, and they tried to silence her, and she came to I believe she reached out to CHD, she reached out to me, and this woman's never looked backwards. Now, let me tell you what this woman did for me. This is a young lady. This is a young lady who's my daughter's age. I have 3 beautiful daughters, like supermodel daughters. They're incredible. They're brilliant, but they don't see the world the same way that we do. And for that, I feel very badly for them. And I've lost some relationship with them, and it's very painful. Like I've lost relationship with other family members and friends and most all the doctors that just ad hominem attack me. But what the courage that this lady showed, it's contagious. What happened? She came out, Eric held my hand through this, Jimbo, you need to do this, you need to do that. He connected me with the best attorneys in the country for my whistleblower. And this woman we've appeared on many platforms all over the world. And because she did that, I'm no longer the only practicing OBGYN doctor in this country that is speaking out. 2 more were recruited because of her courage. And it was Dr. Kimberly Biss, who I hope that you would consider having her on your program.
She's been on here a couple times.
And then I would also ask, and it's Dan McDyer. So now we have, and these are 2 younger doctors than me and much smarter and much better connected and much more brilliant than I am. And let me tell you something, they're speaking out. They've come out of the closet because of Michelle Gershman, because of a 28-year-old kid, a beautiful.
Jim, tell the story about what that letter said for a second, because I think the viewers may not know about it, and it's so important that they know what was contained in that letter.
Oh, it's painful for me to bring that up again, but
I'm sorry. I could quote it verbatim, but I don't want to do that to you.
Why don't you? Because it's just so painful for me.
All right, I'm so sorry. All right, I'm going to say this, and I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt you. I love and appreciate you, but I want to make sure people know the story. And I know it's painful because you look at those babies as your own, and you're protecting them. When you told me you needed to protect these children, what did I do? I said, let's get on the phone with one of the biggest Getter account guys that I could find, and let's broadcast your article to the world, and then let's make sure that, yeah, whatever we had to do, let's just move it. You're protecting the unborn child. No one in the world was protecting the unborn child like you, Jim, like Dr. Thorp. No one was. And I said, what an opportunity for me, what a blessing for me to try to help you help those other people. And I just said, I got to do it, whatever I got to do. So anyway, the letter contained that, when I asked her before I did the interview a little bit about what the letter said and what she knew, and then I referred it to attorneys. But I wanted to protect her job, and I also felt that we would make sure that no one knew what institution she came from, and that we would protect her employment if possible. But it was so unbelievably outrageous, this letter. She said to me that when she started the job in maternal medicine as a birth in what's it called?
Postpartum nurse.
Yeah. That she only would see like a demise or someone who passed a child about once a month, maybe twice a month. And she was like 3 times a week, she'd be there. And when there was a demise, it would be on the board, and she would see it randomly, but not that often. And as the year 2022 started coming around, I think it was actually 2021, I think it was August, there was, and she didn't say anything, there was an uptake. She didn't know how many, but she saw a lot of babies. Every day she came in, there was a baby that died. And that's a stillbirth after 20 weeks, I believe, right, Jim? That's what it's considered. And she was really aware of it, but never really understood the magnitude until this letter arrived. So now we're coming into August of 2022, and there's every time she comes in, that's 3 times a week, 12 times a month, another child's demise. When she first started, only 1 or 2 demised. Now it's every time she's coming in. The letter said this, to the best of my recollection, I don't have it in front of me. It said, we are really sorry about the fact that we have a record number of demises. In, I think, 22 demises had occurred in August, which matched 2021's record of 21 or 22. And being it was September 10th or 11th, we were on a record track of losing 1 baby a day, pretty much. I think it was 9 for the month of September, with being September 10th. And that she was sorry about this, that they were doing everything they could, but that this is unusual, and we're really sorry. Not really saying what the cause was, but we're really sorry. We all in our world know that there might be some causes that are doing this, but we're not going to say that. We're going to say why. Why is the government not looking to figure out why a baby a day is dying when only 2 babies die a month? That's how many babies? 20 more a month? 25? How many are dying? So we protected her to the best of our ability, made sure the letter, her name was crossed out, and we did our first interview before the High Wire did it. I was the one who posted it to the High Wire. I said to his friend, who is it, who works for Dell, one of his partners out there. I said, why don't you consider bringing on Jim, bringing on this whistleblower? Here's the letter. Make sure you don't send it. And I literally forwarded it, and I think he got a call a day later. And I think millions of people know about the story now. So, I mean, it was just about pushing you out the door, and then you guys, told the truth, and God shines his light on it.
If I may, Tommy, can you let me screen share? And
Yeah.
and I think Eric has given me some incredible advice here, but Eric, I think you're going to love the way that I've redone this slide for you. And I was at a major conference over the last 4 days that I want to say a few words about after.
Please do.
But here we go. I'm going to put this on. I think you're going to like this. You're going to like this look a lot better. At least it went over well at the conference, Eric, and thank you for that, Eric. Eric just says, Jimbo, you just need to make that simpler. You need to make it simpler. So I've spent a lot of time doing that. So here we go. Let's see, what number do we have here? Green slide. And there we go, screen 1. Tell me when you can see that.
I can see it.
I can see it.
So
Peace.
may look a little bit familiar to you, Eric, but what we want to focus on, you see my pointer on the y-axis, you have the fetal death rate. And we measure the fetal death rate in terms of fetal deaths, which is a dead baby at 20 weeks or greater, 20 weeks or beyond. It can go all the way to 40 weeks or 42 weeks. But the definition of a stillbirth or fetal death is the baby is born without a heartbeat. If it's 19 weeks and 6 days, it's a miscarriage. And that's a totally different situation that's much more difficult to keep track of. So these are stillbirths. So the stillbirth rate has been very stable. You see this blue line. 2017, 5.89, 5.89, 5.70. That's very, very stable. And when you actually look at those rates, what we call the standard deviation or the variance of this, or the fluctuation, is very, very minuscule. And so what happened was that if the proof is in the pudding, if you actually look at this graph really carefully, you'll see that you aggregate these 3 years of data, and the stillbirth rate is 5.83 per thousand. And what happened in 2020? Well, that aggregate birth rate of 5.83 per thousand dropped to 5.74 per thousand. So in 2020, this is when hundreds of thousands were being died from COVID-19. This was a real COVID-19 pandemic. It wasn't 2021. So the fetal deaths did not increase from COVID-19. They didn't increase until after the vaccine rollout. So now look what happened. And by the way, the United States has not developed any data beyond 2020, interestingly. They're a little bit overdue. Canada's way overdue. And my brother Eric informs me that Canada has purposefully or allegedly purposefully missed their reporting date because they don't know how to handle it because it's sky high. Well, look what happened here. So the fetal death rate, and Dr. Feintuch was actually perfectly on spot with those numbers, with one minor change, and that is, according to Michelle Gershman, the baseline fetal death rate was 1 to 2 fetal deaths or stillbirths every 2 to 3 months. That's what she said. on the interviews that I saw around, about the same. But it went up to, look at this red line. It went up to 29.3, which is easily calculated by simple algebraic formula, just based upon 9,000 births a year in this community. So it went up to 29.3. Now going from 5.74 to 29.3 doesn't sound like it's a very big deal, but this is a
500%.
huge surge. This is a 40 standard deviation or 40 sigma, because one standard deviation is only about this much. It's only 0.5 fetal deaths per thousand. So if you simply look at 29.3 minus 5.74 and divide it by 0.5, you're going to get about 43. 43 sigma standard deviation event is like literally 1 in 10,000 year event. This occurred with something very dramatic and very aggressive that changed in 2021. Now I can show you up in Canada, this is even worse. So in the regional geographic locations of North America, the states, California, Oregon, Washington, and Canada are most aggressively literally forcing pregnant women to take the vaccine under threat, major threats. And so their vaccine rates in pregnancy are extremely high, much higher than in my practice area, which is in Florida and in the Midwest. So look at what happened here. This is actually real data. This is Lions Gate Hospital in British Columbia, Vancouver. And look at what, there were 13 dead babies, fetal stillbirths within a 24-hour period. Can you imagine that? And this isn't just hearsay. This is this is Dr. Mel Brachet and Dr. Daniel Nagas, in addition to 3 other healthcare providers that we call doulas. I won't go into the doula healthcare labor support person. Won't get into the weeds here, but 5 people testify, and just Google it. It's all over the internet. And the Lionsgate Hospital is trying to cover it up. Trudeau is trying to cover it up. And that's why I wore the hat that offended my brother, Eric, that I took off.
All right, listen, it's Tommy's show. Tommy, if you want to see it, let him do it. I love taking care of my Canadian buddies. This will go over Canada. I'm okay with it. Sorry, Tommy. I look like I was taking control again. Please forgive me.
Okay.
That's strike 2. I'll let it go.
We'll let it go. Thanks. Thank you, sir.
I wanted to honor yours. I wanted to honor your effort. Seriously, this is so serious that we have to almost beyond belief that this is what's going on. If you could just remove the that graphic, it's ridiculous. It makes me ill too. 13 stillbirths in 7 days. Jim, this is
13 stillbirths in 24 hours. I had to fake it and make it exaggerate it to 7 days. Otherwise, the graph would have gone up to the moon. And this is a 160 fetal death per 1,000, a 16% risk of fetal death, even faking it and drawing it out for a week. That is 300 sigma above. This is a 1 in a billion year event. It is unexplainable.
See that in our country, and we had a constitutional sheriff, and that happened at a local hospital, he should be investigating it. In a regular state, an attorney general should be investigating it. Anytime that number is so large that there's no reason or rationale for it, it needs to be investigated, and it needs to have proper protocols to see why it's occurring. This is outrageous. It makes me ill. And we try to laugh for a moment, and then we realize how bad this is. How bad this is.
Well, as I often say on this podcast when talking to doctors like y'all, the reason why I've documented this over so many hundreds of episodes, and with Zoom, it on the bottom right, it will always say the day, the month, the year, the hour, the minute, the second. is because many years from now, many decades from now, they're all going to sit around and saying, well, how did it happen? I thought it was never forget. And we're still figuring out how it happened. But that's why I do so many of these. Maybe I'm wrong. That's fine. I'd rather be wrong. But they're going to ask one day, how did this happen? Did no one know? And that's why I'm doing it, is because they will ask one day, how did this 1 in a billion year thing happen? How did everyone just not notice all the Jews disappearing? How did it happen? No one noticed the trains? No one noticed the Stars of David? Well, we weren't. I'm sure if they had Zoom and the internet back then, you'd find a lot of podcasters saying like, dude, where all these fucking people go? And that would help us 80 years later to say, how did it happen? So maybe it might be dramatic. It might be pearl clutching. Who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I'd rather be wrong. But one day they're going to ask, how did it happen? How did no one know? The reality is a lot of people know. The vast majority of people knew. The vast majority of people were trying to talk about it. And what a surprise, the demons enacting these things were also suppressing the information flow. So that's why I'm doing it. Is I don't know if I'll see the change in my lifetime. I don't think I'm going to get any credit from it, and I really don't give a shit. But many years from now, probably many decades, they're going to ask, how did this happen? This is how. No one wants to believe it. No one wants to talk about it. You guys have to come on here and do a podcast with me, some dude who's just screaming at a camera in his bedroom. That's why.
I want to review we touch upon how much Eric, Dr. Feintuch, and Tommy, you guys have both just really encouraged me and emboldened me and just give me support, just verbal and nonverbal, and I feel it. And I've been fighting this fight a long time, and one of my best friends, and I may or may not mention his name, but I was Dr. McCullough and some others said, I think Eric really pressured me into going to this meeting for the last 4 days. And it's I'm fully disabled, although I'm a full-time practitioner, but it's really, I have a segment spinal fusion. It's very difficult for me to travel. And I just couldn't make it to this meeting. And my beautiful bride, Maggie, was going to drive me, but she couldn't do it. She wasn't feeling well. And I have this long-term friend. I'll mention his name. His name's, I call him Buck. His last name's Buckner. And I love the guy. He's got a beautiful wife. I've delivered. And he's just always been by my side and seen me through some tough times. And he agreed with taking me back and forth from this meeting. And the thing about Buckner is he's a brilliant individual. He's younger than I am, but this is a guy that's been on Wall Street forever. He's built hundreds of highly successful businesses. And but we're not on the same wavelength. When we started, because Jimbo, he calls me Jimbo. We have names for each other, guys, and I can't even mention some of the names I have for him. But it's, and he said, this vaccine is the greatest thing. I'm going to get everyone that I can. You're crazy. Why would you not get this vaccine? This was several years ago, when it first came, not several, but when it came out December 1st. And he went out and yeah, I'm going to get 5 more. I'm going to get all the different brands. I'm going to get Moderna. Okay, so that's where we're starting from. And so he comes down to this meeting with me. He's there the whole 4 days. We had to stay an additional day. He went to every single conference. And to Eric's point, Dr. Feintuch says, nobody gets to comment unless the rabbinical court, all of their testimony, they go through it. And this one reminded me to tell you this story about John Buckner in this meeting down there in with the Warners, the Warner movie. There were 2 or 3 ongoing meetings at the same time. John Buckner sat through every single meeting. And let me tell you something, he's more brilliant than more of the presenters. He's a numbers guy. He's not a physician. He's a Wall Street guy. He knows numbers. He's highly intellectual. He came back from that meeting so adamant and of the horrible data that he's done a complete reversal. He's one of the unique individuals that he has no shame about, like me. Look, I'm a human being. I'm allowed to be dead wrong. I'm allowed to make mistakes as long as I come on air and I'm honest with my wife, or I'm honest with my patients and say, hey, I screwed up. And I have. I pushed vaccines prior to 2010 in pregnancy. I have effed up. I made it, but I have admitted it, I've repented, and I've apologized, and I'm a better. So John Buckner does the same thing. Not only does John Buckner.
Oh, we're losing you, Jim. We're losing some of your audio. We're losing. I want to hear it. I'm losing it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's actually it's a call coming in that I'm going to have to do from my clinic. But now this guy is putting all of his efforts right now into supporting the research that Ryan Cole and I and Peter and many others are doing to try to discern and define what's causing this abnormal menstrual bleeding, what's causing these abnormal placentas. Is there spike protein? Is there pseudo-uridinated mRNA in the breast milk and in the placenta and in the endometrium? So he's going to help plan this whole thing. He's totally on board right now. What did we say? Courage is contagious. Look what happened to John Beckner, my best friend. I stuck with him, one of my best friends. And I love him, man. He took his Sprinter down. He drove me all the way down there 8 hours and all the way back, stayed in the same room with me. He's one of my handlers, like Eric.
Wow.
Gain of function courage. It's highly
Wow.
contagious.
Wow. Wow. Jim, I mean, this, I don't think you can make magic sometimes on Zoom because people, but we just did, because you're teaching the truth to people that would listen to you, and they'll take the time to know that you sincerely love the babies you look after before they're even here. And what an honor it has been for me to just get your message out in any form that I was able to do in my little effort. I mean, I definitely try as hard as I can, whether it's a little or not. I let God take care of the rest. And I'm so proud of you, Jim. I really am.
Back at you, brothers. The other thing that I learned of this meeting that I've been really screwing up on, and Eric has lectured me on this in the past, because I'm a passionate man for my relationships with my patients, and my passion comes out, and I have to really, really protect my heart. I don't want my heart to get cold, and I don't want to be angry or project that. And I do my best to try not to do that. And one of the things that and this whole effort has been spearheaded by women, not by men. And I met so many brave and courageous women. Oh my gosh, from Canada, and I'm just thinking of them all. Aga and Jen and Melissa, and I could go on and on and on at this meeting. But what I realized, and this is a movie that was premiered, and I can't share you the link because this is through, who did this? I think it's through Del Bigtree. Kevin Jenkins was there, and it was a movie on how to change the middle people that are hooked on these vaccines and don't believe our narrative. And the way to do it, I've made a mistake. The 97% of doctors that are vaccinated, okay, I can't approach them and show the data that I just showed you, because they're going to receive it very harshly. It's painful to them. So I have to love them. I have to reach out in love. And really, isn't that what Jesus did in the parable, where he left the 99 sheep to go after the one that was lost, and then the one that was lost, or the parable of the son that rejected his father? No, we need to receive these 97% in love and say, listen, I made a mistake. Listen, I was fooled too, and I made a mistake. And we're human beings, and we're allowed to make mistakes. I demand that you allow Jim Thorp to screw up, because I'm a human as long as I admit it and I repent and I do an academic metanoia.
Dr. Feintuch.
Listen, I'm glad we got together today because I think it's an important journey we're on. And I think that, you know, there is a reason why people like ourselves are just driven to just tell the truth. It affects us in every way. I've lost a lot of friends the same way Jim has. And at the same time, they're slowly coming back. And in between, I found that my new group of friends were a hell of a lot smarter than my original bunch of friends. I've told them that. Again, I got involved with guys that make all of us look pretty stupid. But I'm glad you're finally coming around, even if it's just sitting at a pool going, Eric, so how did you get to know all these people? Or what do you mean you testified at the FDA or whatever it was? And not in an arrogant way. I said, I just wanted to make sure that I was protecting my kids and my future grandkids in any way I could. And I injected myself and I found out that I was worthy to some degree, even though I always say it's hard to believe you be as worthy as you can, but that I could literally play at a high level, learn at a high level, and like at least try to communicate to the average person. And I was glad that my brain worked well enough to be that translator. And I hope it always stays that way, but only God knows that answer. But I always feel like, thank God, there's people like Jim that would step forward. Thank God, Tommy, you say, hey, I'm going to do what I can. As long as all of us keep on saying, I'll do what I can, there is nothing we can't do.
Well, it's also, I think most importantly is, I know I'm not, and I don't think any of y'all are. I'm not trying to enforce my will on anyone. If you want to go get 10 boosters in each limb, go wild. You do you. You want to go do coke or meth or whatever, go wild. You're your own person. You're here in your incarnation. I'm not here to tell you how to live your life. I just want to make sure that, one, I don't have to, and I haven't received it. And also, if you're on the fence, that you at least have access to all of the data. If you look at it all and go, yeah, Formula One racing is dangerous, but fuck it, I still want to go drive a race. Go for it. Go wild. But you should at least be able to know what may or may not happen. And I think deep down, people can pick up on that. You can tell when it's a projection of your own will on someone else. Through the last 10,000 years of humanity, you can find invaders never win. Occupying forces never win because you're projecting your own self on them versus just like, hey man, you do you, like laissez-faire. People can pick up on that and they can tell that like, oh, this guy's not trying to put his thing on me. He's not trying to make me fall in line. Why are they doing it? People can pick up on that. I do think that there's a deep sense people have, and they go, I'm not trying to fight for the Tommy brand of vaccine. I don't give a shit what you do. And I think deep down people can pick up on that. And it's you're not trying to force it on anyone. It's the exact opposite. You're not trying to seize power. You're doing the exact opposite. And there is immense power in that. But
Tommy, I got to jump off, and Eric, because I've got a problem in one of my offices with one of my patients.
Is Trudeau calling you?
Not Trudeau. One of my
Trudeau is calling you. He's
executives.
very upset. He monitors my podcast.
Exactly.
Jim,
Yeah.
go take care of
you guys.
Jim, go take care of your patient. God bless you, buddy. God
All
bless
right,
you.
Jim. Much love, brother.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for coming on, Dr. Feintuch. I say we wrap this one up. I'd love to have you guys on again. I know it's we only did an hour, but I am still fighting the flu and feel like dog shit. So
yeah, well, you know what? Good for you for trying and staying with the purpose, knowing that the bigger purpose was for you to a few days later get out there again and just keep up the good work, man. That's how I look at it. And I'm happy you're out there doing your stuff. Believe me, we need everyone, all hands on deck. Everyone's got to get out there. And when you have questions, ask them. And if you don't get a good answer, maybe that's your first sign that maybe you're not in the right, camp. Maybe you got to start asking more and more questions. And I always felt that God didn't give me the answers, but he definitely gave me the questions. So I am asking every possible question I can. And I think I'm making whatever little difference I can. And I'm grateful for the fact that I'm bringing the fight right up the riptide, right back through, right to them using my Warp Speed Legal. So if anyone wants to get in touch with us and has a vaccine injury, go to Warp Speed. We'll see if we can help them. WarpSpeedLegal.com. Let's see if we can get them to a proper counsel locally that's educated, that understands the science, which is what we're doing. We're trying to get the lawyers up to speed. And I don't want people suffering if we can prevent it. And not every, vaccine is going to create a reaction. So I'm not going to say they shouldn't do it, even though the data suggests that it definitely is not in their best interest. What I've seen in almost every age group, it's not in their best interest. But you got to make that decision. I agree, Tommy. And that's for them to make. My goal is to show you all the data as well. And I've learned the data, so I'm up to speed. And I'm grateful that I've been surrounded by scientists and people that are showing me where to look. So if I'm just some of that translation I can help them with, it's been my honor.
Hell yeah. Well, Dr. Feintuch, I'd love to have you back on here. Also with Dr. Thorp. And yeah, I'll text you this episode when it's up. And thank you so much, sir.
It's my honor, man. God bless you. Keep
Hell
up
yeah,
the great
brother.
work.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.